I'm Chip Carey from Keene, New Hampshire. I'm a fraternity brother of mine in UNH, Carl Beck from Beck's Roofing. Uh, he was a fraternity brother of mine. He always kept saying that, you ought to go skiing at Sugarloaf. You ought to go skiing at Sugarloaf. And after I graduated from college, I went skiing at Sugarloaf. Well, the first year, when I got out, I went to Waterloo Valley first and started what Tom Cochran, who was the president of Waterloo Valley, thinks was the first courtesy patrol in the country. It was all kind of a rouge to be able to ski free, if you will. Because if you remember 1969-70 winter, if you're at a ski resort in those days, your lift lines would be minimum 45 minutes on weekends, if not more. And one of their popular chairlifts there had a long line, and I went into Tom Cochran's office and asked, I said, I'd like to, my friend and I, we'd like to straighten out your lines on weekends. If you give us some free skiing, we'll do that for you on weekends. First of all, we organized all the mazes, okay, so that there was an order to the mazes, okay, and actually developed mazes. And then once we got people into mazes, we entertained them. We did all kinds of different things, told jokes, did quizzes and trivia and that kind of things, and just turned it into a good time for people. And it really went over really well, to the point where we expanded it. Over the course of the winter, we actually went out on the mountain every single day and called ourselves the Courtesy Patrol. And the executives at the resorts were just very much amazed how we entertained their guests. Once we did that, the next year I wanted to go up and work at Sugarloaf, and I came up and I couldn't get a job. I couldn't find a job, and it was a very closed community. I was an outsider, really didn't have any ins with the corporation of people. And I talked to Stub Taylor, was one of my early conversations. And he said, well, to be on a ski patrol here, you have to be an awful strong skier. And by the way, all our ski patrollers, they all keep coming back anyways. And so I ended up going to North Conway the next winter and working at the Eastern Slopes Inn when it was really an inn. Well, here, my first job, it's never really simple or easy, right? So having the experience of not being able to find a job or make inroads into the local community here the first time. The second time, I enlisted a friend of mine who's Bill Beaton, who is the ski writer for the Lynn Item. And during the falls, I used to coach football in Lynn Classical High School. And Bill, I once told him my story about not being able to get into Sugarloaf and finding a job. And he said, oh, I can help you. I know Harry Baxter. And he says, I'll give Harry a call. And a little white lie entered the scene at that point in time, where Bill said that when I was in North Conway, I would send him pictures of people from Lynn, and he'd publish them in the paper. And we all know that Harry Baxter just loved PR. He loved publicity. That was his game. And it's where I learned my game from Harry. And so Bill called Harry. Harry got me a job at the Sugarloaf Inn as a waiter. A year at North Conway, as things went, I met two women who were art students, and they were living in the same employee dorm that we were living in, and they wanted a dark room. And I said, well, I'll build you a dark room if you will teach me how to, work in the dark room. And they did it, and I built them the dark room. They taught me how. So this is in March. This is all happening in March, and my to-be wife, Nancy, who was with me that March, she bought me a camera. Okay, my first single lens reflex camera, and I had another friend who was a serious amateur photographer, and we for about 6 months, all we did was photography, and we studied it, and he was a very good photographer, okay? Me, not so much. When we were working at the Sugarloaf Inn, the kind of funny part of the thing is that there were 14 of us on the wait staff at the Sugarloaf Inn. And for one reason or another we won't get into, we all lost that job. Okay, we did a little protest at the way we were being treated, and they came down and fired all of us. And the only one that stayed was the chef's wife. Okay, she stayed, and the rest of us all dispersed. And I was one of the few that hung around in Sugarloaf after that. And I still needed a ski, so I went up to Harry Baxter and told him that if he'd give me free skiing and a free season pass, I would pay him back by having pictures published in newspapers. And I would get credit, $25 for every picture I got published. Okay, and
that's a win-win.
Yeah, and Harry took it, and
and here we are.
And here we are. But what cemented me here, though, okay, was during Christmas of the year before I got fired at the Sugarloaf Inn, Senator Muskie was here, and his family was here at Sugarloaf, and he was going to. That was the year that he was going to run for president, and they gave me the job of taking care of his family as far as waiting on table at the Sugarloaf Inn, and so then we ended up getting, in January we ended up being asked to leave, and but the deal with Harry took my deal, and one day he called me up and said, "Chip, we're going to have a photo shoot tomorrow." And I said, "Okay." He says, "Well, we're going to have Dick Fontaine and Senator Muskie here, and he's going to write his acceptance speech for running for president. And we're going to have a photo opportunity with him. So if you show up at 9 o'clock, we'll have a photo shoot." So I showed up at 9 o'clock, a little bit before 9 actually. But I was kind of fooling around, if you will, and then because the mountain already had a photographer, and somebody said, "Hey, Chip, the photo shoot started." So I turned around and I took a couple shots from basically where I was, and AP UPI only used my photos. They went all over the country. Within a month, I was sitting in the chair of the old photographer up in the old base lodge. And then that's when I started seriously with Sugarloaf. Other than the fact I just love the area, okay, no question about that. We like the people, all those things would anchor you here. But the thing that really got me here was that my job changed all the time. I wasn't stagnant. Every time I might, let's say, get to a level where you might get bored by just redundancy, something else came along. Okay, so I moved along, and part of that's going along with the fact that I ended up being a weird marketing guy in that I knew 1 and 1 was 2, but I didn't know how to spell my name. Okay, but I ended up in marketing, and that's because I went to school to be an engineer. Okay, I did not graduate with a engineering degree, but
You get Charmaine cutting it up behind you.
Yeah.
It's so hilarious.
That's great.
Now, like I said, I don't want to. I ended up, and I was a mathematician, so I was engineering math. Okay, but I got so far into my education there, and I found myself surrounded with a lot of people that I couldn't really find myself being like these people. Okay, I just wasn't me, and so I punted on that, and I went into the School of Health Sciences after that, and graduated there with a teaching degree. But I think that my whole engineering background helped me in marketing all the way through, and especially at the end of my career, when you would say that maybe I'm not as relevant, but I was relevant in that I knew how to analyze things. I knew statistics, and so I could analyze things right down to the T pretty well, and that really helped me well. And then my science background, if you will, I was always on the edge, throughout my whole career of technology. Okay, and I was able to keep going with technology through my whole career, and that really helped me and kept me relevant right until I was, I don't know, 66 when I actually fully retired. Once we got into the digital age, the marketing guy's whole sole job almost was to analyze the numbers,
Right.
because you have so much data to look at, and if you didn't know how to deal with that data, you couldn't make the good decisions. And I always said that data and research was the two kings for me, because how am I relevant when I'm 60 some odd years old to our core group that's somewhere between 25 and 40, So, but that you do that through research, not what you think, it's what they're thinking. And if you can couple those together very well, you can be successful and you can move the needle. The development of technology in society helped me because I could grasp onto it. And I think you know that, I mean, it's at every level. If a month, when I got into that office for the first time after a month, what did I find? I found a Bolex 16 millimeter film. Okay, now that may not sound like technology today, but I didn't know what this thing was, but I could learn it and I could use it. And what did I do? I went out and started making relationships with TV stations, because that's what it was designed for.
Right.
And I shot film, because they were still using film, not video then.
Right.
So we were shooting, even Bangor was still black and white, shooting Tri-X film through the camera, Portland was a little ahead of time. They used 4272 video film, something like that,
Yeah.
And then as video came along, we developed, and so we use fax machines, right? I actually bought some places fax machines, so I wouldn't have to sit in my office and say, oh, so and so in the race today, he was first, and second was third. We go down the list of things. I could send it to them. I could send the stories to them. And save me a lot of time, so I could get more done, if you will.
Wow.
And of course, then cable television came along, and we opened up. The history of WSKI started. Right? Larry Warren walked in my office one day and said, "How do you like to run a TV station?" I know anything about running a TV station? No. Well, what I think I'm most proud of is my family, and my family's a product of being brought up at Sugarloaf. If I think of my oldest my daughter, who happens to be the oldest, is Rebecca, and where she's gone in life and been involved in ski racing right up until today. All three of her kids are still racing, so she's not a soccer mom, but she's a ski racing mom, and her kids, so they're very much involved in the industry. I have Forrest, my next oldest. He very successful ski career himself. Really helped the programs here at Sugarloaf in a long term. And then, of course, his tenure with the ski team. The U.S. ski team. When he was the head coach with Bodie Miller and American ski team, and what he's done with Ted Ligety and Tommy Ford and all those people. The numerous awards he's won, 4 times the International Coach of the Year. He's been the Coach of the Year for the U.S. ski team. So his acclaims in the industry are pretty high, and he's made you very proud, that's for sure, for what he's done. And he's continuing that. His kids are skiing. Then Bryn, my youngest, he's the businessman in the crew. And, he has a very successful business called Ski Butlers, and who Altera Mountain just bought Ski Butlers.
Wow.
And Bryn now will be working for Altera, and which is pretty exciting. But he created an industry within the industry. Yeah. He really broke that ground of ski rental delivery companies, and very successful at it, extremely successful at it. My wife and I were very proud of all the 8 grandkids we have, Every single one of them started skiing while they were 1. Okay, and so we're pretty proud. When you go back to that community I talked about with keeping you here, is if you think Forrest would be at the mountain, he'd love to ski, right? And I couldn't be out because I had to work all the time. But guys like Jeff Rosenberg, Paul Brown, you start naming them. The people who would just take Forrest and go skiing with him, So they're really part of his success too. They really helped Forrest get the mileage he liked. Now Bryn, the opposite, he was my youngest. He would he wanted to know why the chairlifts turned, how it turned, and why that blue wheel went around. When he was little. So he might be skiing and he'd be going like this, looking at the lift. When Forrest go down the hill,
yeah,
it was there. The focus was there. And Rebecca was just a good all-around skier. That she just loved to ski. She was one of those happy-go-lucky skiers. I often think about what I'm most proud of in my work in the ski industry, and I'm not sure the word proud is right, but I'm very excited to see things like office skiing. But you go to the Sugarloaf Marathon, been going on since 1983. Had COVID year absence there, but other than that, still going on. It's one of the classic races. All my work with the canoes races I put on, the Upper Dead and those places like that. The Celebrity Cup that meant a lot to me. Both my mother and father had cancer. My sister had cancer, so that work was really important to me. And
that morphed into what is the charity summit now.
Yep.
Still ongoing, just
yeah,
like the
still
marathon.
ongoing.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of effort, but it was good. It was good for Sugarloaf. It's a lot more work to put on a whole weekend of events the way we do. When we took care of and walk these people around hand in hand all the time. But they raise a lot of money for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, so we were very, very happy with that. But if you go back to things like going back to technology, being the first ski resort in the country that used the full color on the internet, on the websites. Sugarloaf's, full page, homepage in the New York Times business section showing our website. That was the first one in the ski industry that used the full color, things like that. Now, and again, it's kind of funny because I can't sit here and say I did that. I happened to help people like Tom Gale was the one that was really did the technical aspects of that, right? I didn't do that, but Tom Gale did, and so he deserves a lot of credit. But I'm the one who really pushed him to realize the value, because marketing is only communications, right? And if the Bolex camera I found was only communications, and the fax machines only communications, right? And if you go right up the whole line, database, so we could communicate better. We were creating our own databases back when we had D-Base 3, and we had to create, and so we knew the name of the dog that so and so had, so we could build a better relationship. We knew their child's names and stuff like that by building a database, and there wasn't anything off the shelf in those days. It was, and then most of the time we had to call up, direct dial to Massachusetts to be able to get online if we wanted to. Love to ski. Never gets old. No. You get the right type of terrain, variety of conditions, variety of weather. I mean, it's not the same. I mean, very few days are duplicates. Okay? And snow, no snow, it's all different. My family, there's no question. Yeah. So any of them, my grandkids, we just love it. They all live in, 5 of them live in Park City, and I go down there, and if I'm there for 5 days, each one of them get a day to ski with me free. Like just the one-on-one, because that's the best. Though we do the group thing too, where there's all of us all over the place, but one-on-one, and my wife and I both love doing that.
That's neat. So, Chip, you're out of Jackson Hole, which I believe is where Harry Baxter still resides.
Mm-hmm.
What's the story on him?
Well, Harry's doing well. I believe he's 92 now.
Wow.
He still skis with an oxygen bottle, and he goes in a small backpack. He still loves to ski. He loves to go out for walks with his wife, and he still rides a bike. Harry Baxter, I consider my mentor. Okay, when he hired me back in 1971, and we had that relationship of the media and his desire and love of the media, and my ability to try to capture images and messages that the media wanted, and he just taught me so much. He taught me, about public relations, PR. He was the king of it, and I learned everything from him. The couple years that he was with us. I think he was with me for 3 years there. And he's an incredible individual, and his wife Martha, no question, they'd do anything for anybody, and that was for a stranger on the street, but also for the editor of the ski magazine, right? They'd treat them the same, but they'd offer their house, they'd offer their dinner. Martha was always cooking dinner for these people and stuff like that, and entertaining them. Now everybody wants to go to a restaurant, where Harry and his wife brought the people in, and it really built the relationship. And quite frankly, early on in my career, that's what I used to do. I had people sleeping at my house, and we'd feed and that, as opposed to just having to go out to dinner. There was enough. We could show them the restaurants, and if you can get that personal relationship with the media, you're going to go a lot further.
Thank you, Chip. I'm glad we got that.
Yeah, me too. My wife will say I talk too much about myself.
Well, you're an expert on the subject.
That's right. That's right.